throughout prehistory, human beings have always had an ongoing love affair with talismans.
Talismans are found throughout cultures, from South America to the Middle East, to Africa, to East Asia and Europe. They are found everywhere, and they share a lot of common features. They are primarily material concretions of the divine, of supernatural power. Talismans provide a physical anchoring for what is usually invisible.
The word talisman actually means to consecrate and to fulfill. And it's thought that they actually fulfill or amplify the will or desire of the person using it.
The Iroquois, the Native American group, had this energy in things. It was called Orenda. The Japanese Shinto tradition believed that physical objects had soul. The ancient Sumerians, the Greeks, the Romans, they thought there was the possibility of sacred power in inanimate objects.
Talismans can be big or small. They can be carried, they can be installed in buildings. There are all kinds of talismans. There are talismans for protection, there are talismans for healing, and there are a lot of talismans for religious purposes, which are used to feel closer or connected to a religious character, a saint, or even a god.
The earliest talismans that we have records of specifically are bear claws for helping the hunt, eagle talons for personal strength, and what are called Venus figurines for fertility.
Even in the 21st century, talismans are big. Many people might not think of them as talismans, but you have St. Christopher medals for travellers, you have Christian crosses, and you often see people touching them or holding them. And they do think of them as talismans. They do think it actually protects them in some way.
Throughout all of human history and in every culture, people have assigned certain objects with extraordinary powers. But why? What is behind this enduring belief?
The talisman helps us bridge the seen and the unseen, spirit and matter. The sacred dimension is really beyond our understanding. We can't see it. We can believe in it, but it would be nice to touch. That's the bridging function of a talisman or an amulet.
The talisman can be a constant reminder that someone or something is watching over you. And I think a lot of people can find comfort and solace in that. Even for non-religious believers, talismans can be a concretion that is physical of the presence of the invisible.
Any physical object has the potential to be a talisman, but there are certain talismans that appear all over the world and in many different cultures.
The talismans that I find the most mysterious are those that employ the human eye, and they're mysterious precisely because they appear all over the world amidst cultures that are separated by vast differences in time, geography, custom, language. From Siberia to Polynesia, literally, human beings for millennia have been devising talismans in the shape of an eye. The most famous, of course, being the Egyptian Eye of Horus. But they occupy every culture, every territory, every time. And that common language is fascinating.
Curiously, this talisman serves the same function in nearly every culture in which it appears, which is to protect against what is commonly known as the curse of the evil eye.
The evil eye goes back at least 5,000 years. You can go back to Mesopotamia, you can go back to ancient Egypt. The definition of the evil eye is basically a curse, and it is transmitted through a glance. So the evil eye is born from the emotion of envy, of jealousy, of greed, of resentment. And we see there are many different types of amulets that deflect this negative energy. Today you can find the evil eye just about everywhere. You have jewelry, the evil eye beads, which is called the nazar, the blue and the white circles, the hamsa, will hang hamses on their doors, above their desks. They tie them on cribs. So you can see these amulets everywhere, and they are all to deflect the curse that is unleashed from the evil eye.
As the evil eye is for protection and the Venus figurine is for fertility, many talismans take forms that are directly connected to their intended purpose. But there are some whose origins are far more mysterious.
One talisman that many people around the world wear around their neck or as a bracelet is the so-called Merkaba. The Merkaba is a concept that comes from the Hebrew faith. And Merkaba translated into plain English is chariot. It actually ties in with the story of Ezekiel, in which he describes as an eyewitness what he saw up in the sky.
In the Hebrew Bible's book of Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel describes witnessing a fiery chariot with wheels within wheels, descending from the sky in a whirlwind.
Not only did he see these wheels within a wheel up in the sky, but that thing landed in front of him and somebody came out. And Ezekiel himself was actually taken inside this craft. So the Merkaba is a transportation device. I find it fascinating that the Merkaba now is just, for protection. It's for, longevity. It is for procreation, which are all great things. But when I read that Merkaba means celestial chariot, that's when my ears perk up.
The book itself is among the most mystical texts. And so when you do that connection, when you look at the Merkaba, you can really get the idea that it creates the connection to another realm, metaphorically, but then also, I do believe too that people who wear it do sense some sort of a portal into something else.
Is it possible that the Merkaba, that is still worn by millions of people today, was inspired by an extraterrestrial visitation? And if so, might this be true of other talismans as well? And the belief that inanimate objects can be imbued with energy. Perhaps further clues can be found by examining the most prominent and mysterious talismans of ancient Egypt. Thebes, Egypt. Here, in the 1830s, British Egyptologist Sir John Gardner Wilkinson discovered the earliest known version of what the ancient Egyptians referred to as the Book of the Dead. This text, dating back 3,600 years, was a key component of Egyptian funerary rituals and detailed as many as 75 talismanic objects, each with a specific purpose for both the living and the dead.
Ancient Egyptian magic was based on the idea that the gods could imbue an object with magical powers, with superpowers. That a person holding one of these talismans actually possessed the power of the god, and then could heal themselves, protect themselves, manipulate their environment.
The Egyptians utilized talismans in a very special way. The actual physical object of the talisman, what it was created from, is important. Was it a scarab carved out of lapis lazuli? Was it an important stone? How was it inscribed?
The ancient Egyptians often made talismans from a type of limestone called lapis lazuli, which they believed would provide good fortune as well as protection during the journey to the afterlife. Another powerful talismanic material was moldavite, a type of green glass formed by a meteor impact superheating the desert sand. A protective heart scarab made of moldavite was found in the tomb of King Tut, and the Egyptians believed it provided a connection to the cosmos.
The origins of the moldavite are extraterrestrial, and people believe that you can use the stone as a talisman. to connect with extraterrestrial energy. It's bringing the properties that are from an extraterrestrial world into ours.
For the ancient Egyptians, just as important as the material from which a talisman was made was the shape that it took. The design of each talisman invoked a certain energy.
The people believe they can gain access to the gods through, well, little figurines of the gods or animals, although some of them were very abstract, even technological looking.
Arguably, one of the oldest and certainly the most popular and common talismans in human history is the Egyptian ankh, which is sometimes called the key of life, which resembles a cross with a loop on the top of it. The ankh symbolized the goddess Isis. Carrying the ankh was believed to imbue you with a life force and a vitality that came directly as a gift from the goddess herself.
The ankh is of enormous importance to the Egyptians, and you have gods carrying them, especially the god Anubis, the jackal-headed god, who ushers you into the afterlife. And when he points it towards the mummy of the deceased, he's aiding in the first stages of resurrection and indeed reincarnation.
The ankh often associated with a second symbol known as the jet pillar. This was the representation of the backbone of the god named Osiris.
But what the jet pillar represented in terms of talismanic use was stability. Carrying the jet pillar was to keep you stable and to protect you from chaos. The forces of evil in Egyptology were the forces of chaos.
And these two symbols together represented life and stability. And they were shown being given by a god to the current pharaoh to bring stability to his or her own reign during their lifetime. But beyond this, it was a symbol of communication, also with the gods themselves.
In Egyptian mythology, the gods Osiris and Isis are husband and wife, and they came to Earth from the belt stars of the Orion constellation. When the talismans that represent them, the ankh and the jet pillar, were combined, it was believed to facilitate a connection to these otherworldly entities. And in some cases, these objects were associated with a third talisman, the was scepter.
The was scepter was a type of baton, a scepter, a stick, and at the top there was the representation of an animal's head. Most often believed